Now we come on bragging.
So like your pain and the facial.
Yeah, no, 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 me duele this finger. I think what I just
We're going to get started in just a minute. If there's anyone that wishes to speak publicly at the beginning of the meeting during the public forum, please sign up here on the blue. And if you'd like to speak on a specific agenda item and want to wait until that agenda item comes up, sign up here on the yellow. You've already did that. Okay. All right. And you can do it at any time. You don't have to wait until the agenda item if you'd rather speak at the beginning, but I want to make sure if you want to speak that you're signed up.
Mayor, should he sign now, though?
You are signed up, right?
No,
At
he's
the
not.
agenda. Oh, I'm sorry. I thought you were already signed up at
Sign
the
up
agenda.
now
Yes,
for-
please.
It's,
Okay.
let me tell you the agenda item.
Stephanie, do the yellow one.
11B.
No,
11B.
yeah,
You're here for.
well, you can always say you don't want to speak if you'd like to, but that's when we have a public forum. You sign here. If you want to wait until we get to an agenda item, then you sign that one. Okay? Yes, you can always decide you'd rather not speak.
Are you gonna speak on a-
Right behind you. Wait.
He
Stephanie,
has. Are you speaking on a particular item?
a general.
Okay.
Okay.
Why don't you do it at the beginning? Because that way you don't have to wait till the end. It's up
Hey,
to you.
Tom.
but-
You look sharp. Always clean cut and
Councilman, are you?
Yeah.
Huh? I know, that's why.
Oh,
You can, and then that way you don't have to wait
Lucky
until
you.
then.
Added. So. 10. Check out.
Oh, we
consent,
moved
put it
it.
here and poll 19, just, yeah.
Okay, thank you. You're welcome. Had a chance to say hello. Okay. Yes. Mhm.
loading. Today, but that's for the that's fine. You can see yours. What?
Just can't get enough.
Call the roll, please. Here.
Vice Mayor Bravo,
Here.
Councilman Santeen,
Here.
Councilman Fahet,
Here.
Councilman Vasquez.
Here.
Excuse me. There is a quorum present.
Thank you. If you're able, please rise to join us in the invocation by Councilman Vasquez.
Heavenly Father, we gather here in your presence to ask you provide us with the wisdom and peace needed as we conduct the business of our beloved city. Lord, nourish us with your guidance so that we act in a thoughtful manner, with an open mind and a sense of fairness for all as we deliberate a host of ideas in the name of the residents of Miami Springs. Guide us, dear God, to have the courage and determination to do right by all. In your name, Jesus Christ, we pray. Amen.
Amen. Please join us in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Hey, welcome everyone. Welcome everyone to our council meeting of March 25th. Thank you all for being here. It's wonderful to see so many faces in the audience. We appreciate you making the time to be here. And we want to welcome anyone who's joining us virtually. So we'll get started with our awards and presentations. And first on the agenda for A is a promotion ceremony by our Chief Jimmy Deal of Sergeant Matthew Castillo for Police Lieutenant.
Good evening, everyone. Sergeant, now Lieutenant Matthew Castillo was born here in Miami Springs, such as myself and many of the other officers, attended Springview Elementary, Miami Springs Middle School, Miami Springs Senior High. He began his career here with the Miami Springs Police Department as a public service aide in 2009. It's only really, it seems like yesterday. I recall it very vividly. I can't believe it's been this long, 15 years already. He then went on to the Police Academy, 2011, graduated later that year. He received the Officer of the Month Award for February 2015, was promoted to Sergeant in 2016. Earlier this month, he graduated from the prestigious Federal Bureau of Investigation National Academy Class 289. Ladies and gentlemen, Matthew Castillo.
Thank you, Chief Deal. We've came a long way. Let me tell you. See, when I first was hired as a public service aide, Chief Deal was my sergeant. And I used to come and show up to calls I wasn't supposed to show up to. And one particular incident, he told me, he said, let's meet in the public pool parking lot. And I knew I was going to get chewed out. And I showed up, and rightfully so, I got chewed out. But he told me he appreciated my passion and my drive for law enforcement. And he told me just to give him a call and that he would tell me when the scene was safe. And then he would let me show up and I would learn. I'll never forget that. So you've been a very important part of my law enforcement career and developing me. And it's an honor that you promoted me to the rank of lieutenant today. So I thank you.
Bravo.
The city officials, city manager. I look forward to continuing to serve our community with leadership, integrity, and commitment to excellence. Together, we're going to strive for a safer and stronger community. Thank you.
Thank you, Lieutenant.
Turn around.
Congratulations,
gotta thank-
Lieutenant, and thank you for serving and protecting our community.
Thank
We're
you so
very,
much.
very grateful.
I got to thank my family.
Of course, and also have them up for photos.
Okay, I will.
Yes.
Okay. To my family and friends in the audience, the past 10 weeks when I was in the academy, it was a huge, huge sacrifice. As a father, I pride myself in not missing any of my son's sports games. I missed an entire season. My newborn, I had to watch him reach milestones through FaceTime. It was tough. I left my best friend, the one crying over there. You know, she's the one that told me everything was going to be okay. And she gave me the confidence I needed to succeed. Without you guys, I couldn't be up here today. So I thank you so much. Thank you. Um, to the residents of Miami Springs, like Chief Deal said, I'm a product of Miami Springs. The least I could do is give everything I have every single day to make sure that my kids will enjoy the past 40 years like I have. And I intend to do that. And I'm not going to fail because I can't fail. Because if I fail, I'm failing my family. And I promise that's not going to happen. God bless everyone here and God bless Miami Springs. Thank you.
Lieutenant, you have other family members here? Other family members here, right? Call them up, yes. Okay, come on. Come on. I know.
Get the whole family, get the whole family up here.
Always.
One more with the- His daughter, he's the twins, went to school. My daughter, where's Rob? Okay. Thank you again, Lieutenant. Congratulations and thank you for serving and protecting our community. And to everyone in the police department. We're very grateful for your service and your protection. Okay, we'll move on to announcing our City Hall Lobby Artist of the Month. And for this month, we're really excited that it's our Public Information Officer, Shannon Jaser, who has done a remarkable job of celebrating International Women's Month, March? Is International Women's Month. And she's celebrated, is Shannon here?
No, I'm
Okay.
actually mayor. Both her children are ill,
Okay,
and she asked me to read something.
okay, so we'll do that. She's done a remarkable job, and please, on your way out, if you didn't do it on your way in, or even if you did, check it again. All the portraits in our lobby of women who work for Miami Springs. It's an exceptional display. We're very grateful to all of them. And I asked what about the men that work for Miami Springs? And she said that that's coming in June, which is International Men's Month. So don't worry, we'll have that too. Okay.
Well, I told Shannon she should stay at top. You know, she did a great job, but put the men in there, I don't know, she might just start losing her credibility.
No, I know. We're very grateful to them too. So our city manager has a statement to read from Shannon.
Yes, Shannon wrote a little note earlier and says, "Good evening, Mayor, council members, and all Miami Springs residents. I regret my absence as both my little ones are unwell. My project's aim was straightforward: to honor Women's Empowerment Month by highlighting the dedicated, talented, and remarkable women who contribute to our city. Often we overlook the individuals holding significant roles within our community. The women I work with consistently inspire me. I am grateful to our city manager and assistant city manager for their openness to my ideas, enabling me to be creative. I also appreciate the unwavering support from the mayor and council. I want to thank all the women who took part in the project. I only wish I could have captured everyone. Special thanks to my partner David for his tireless assistance during both the photo shoots and numerous hours of editing. This project would not have been possible without his help. Lastly, my deepest gratitude to my two daughters, Adeline Ray and Harlow Lynn, for being my constant motivation. To all the amazing women of Miami Springs, I wish you a joyful Women's Empowerment Month. Shannon Jaser, PIO for the city of Miami Springs."
Good job.
Bravo. Through the chair.
Yes, sir.
Yes, Mayor and council members, I saw Shannon earlier today at a ribbon cutting ceremony, and I congratulated her on a job well done. Women's History Month has been celebrated since 1912, when an international group of women meeting in Sweden, honoring what had been the disastrous shirtwaist fire in New York City the year before, 1911, where over 140 women died in a factory that had no fire escapes, no sprinkler systems. They should not have died. Honoring that memory at a time when women could still not vote in the United States. And so we've come a long way, but it's important that we keep celebrating and recognizing all of the efforts that women do every day, all day, at all levels. And I thought it was particularly interesting that she chose the working women of Miami Springs, the city of Miami Springs. In addition, I'm not a photographer, and my wife will tell you that, but I am appreciative of well shot photographs. And I particularly found her technique with a little bit of shadow and it's just an excellent piece. And again, a reflection of the talents that we have in the city of Miami Springs. So congratulations to all the women in the audience. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilman. And I want to, and I say this every month when we celebrate the Artist of the Month for our City Hall Artist of the Month display, everyone is welcomed. If you have someone in Miami Springs that lives in Miami Springs or somehow work in Miami Springs, and you have a family member, you yourself are an artist, and it doesn't have to be art, it doesn't have to be wall hung art. It can be sculptures. It can be any type. We welcome you to contact Shannon, our public information officer, reach out to her and she'll select, she'll work with you to coordinate a month that we can display your art. The art in City Hall display is a wonderful way for us to recognize the talent in our city and also to beautify City Hall and keep it an interesting place to drop by every month and check it out. And by the way, another project in Shannon's always doing, so I'm going to right now is she's always thinking up new projects in the city for the community to assist. And now until the end of the month, we are collecting, if you came in, you'll see boxes for gently used shoes that are being collected and donated to a shelter. So if you can go through your closet before the end of the month and you have any gently used shoes, men's or women's or children's, just drop them by City Hall and put them in the box. We're greatly appreciative of the whole community helping on these initiatives. Okay, so we'll move now to open forum. I want to say a few points about open forum. We have several people signed up to speak. Open forum is set up as one-way conversation. We are all ears. You are talking to us, we don't respond. So you have the attention of all the council, the city manager, assistant city manager, city attorney, and everyone in the audience, and of course, everyone that's listening virtually to address us to address us collectively. If after open forum, you're welcome to later tonight, the next day, in the week, whatever, if you want to reach out to any of us individually and discuss it further, you're welcome to do that, or to follow up with our city manager, assistant city manager, or a city clerk and discuss the issue further, okay? I'm asking everyone to keep your comments to 2 minutes. We have a lot of people that are signed up to speak. So Erica will start the clock and just kindly, when you hear the ringer, say thank you and we'll move on to the next person. Okay, so I'm going to call the first person signed up for public forum is Stephen Owens.
All right, good evening, Mayor. Good evening, council members. Okay, so it's decision. Oh, by the way, I'm here to speak on in support of Match Point Tennis. So it's decision night. So I'm going to try to make my most passionate and persuasive speech yet. First of all, I'd like to bring up piggyback on something that happened at the last council meeting. A proclamation was passed to bring awareness to online gambling addiction in young adults. Well, children and teens have their own addictions, and they are social media and video games. And one of the ways that the city can help us combat that is through youth sports programs such as the tennis program in Match Point Tennis. The kids are there, they're outside, they're healthy, they're learning sport, they're exercising. It keeps them off their phones and off the video games. So my suggestion would be, when you're making a decision as to whether or not to renew the contract, is the program successful? And how do you measure that? Are there children outside learning tennis every weekday afternoon and every weekday evening? And the answer is yes. And over the past 15 years, as Manny said, hundreds of children have come through this program and learned tennis. So it's very beneficial to us as parents to help us manage the freight train of technology that's coming into our children's lives, is to keep them involved in these extracurricular activities and after school programs. I'm asking you, please do not destabilize this program, because I can tell by the way the contract is written with Valiente, the first thing they're going to do, they're going to have to increase the rates. It's going to have to just to make the costs meet. So as a parent with 3 children, that's a real concern of mine. I did see that the pickleball courts were open today in a ribbon cutting ceremony. I want to congratulate you on that. That's great. I think the overall tennis center management and taxpayer investment into the tennis center should be separate from the youth sports program. The youth sports program works at the tennis center. So I would say keep that in place. Is Match Point perfect? No, but I think the parents need to go ahead and address that with the tennis program. Thank you so much. Have a great evening.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Okay, next we have Michael Gavila.
Michael Gavila at 223 North Royal Point, Sienna. I'm here to support Hole 19. They should be renewed. With all the problems we've had with COVID-19 and then the golf course being shut down, I think they've done a good job, in my opinion. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, next we have Enrique Aguilera. I got it.
Thank you. Good evening. Thank you. I decided to read in order to make it brief and not miss any of the items. I will focus on the recent RFP for the tennis center's new concession. This proposal is scheduled to be voted on as a resolution later tonight in favor of the Valiente Tennis Academy. First and foremost, I want to congratulate and thank the council members, city manager, city attorney, and recreation department, along with all those involved in this process. Their hard work and effort in preparing, analyzing, and ultimately recommending the winning party deserve our recognition. Additionally, I extend my gratitude to the residents who have expressed their opinions regarding the need for change in how the tennis center is managed. From personal experience, the city's responsiveness to its residents is one of the many things I love about Miami Springs. By now, everyone is aware that a noticeable change in the facilities management has occurred over the past year. This change led many residents to voice complaints and eventually seek tennis and pickleball opportunities in the neighboring communities. I hope, and I know this is the wish of many residents, that the new concession will prioritize its residents. Several ideas have already been discussed directly with the city manager and the recreational department director. These proposals include allowing residents to play for free during certain hours when the courts are unoccupied, as well as ensuring primetime hours without compromising the tennis academy's availability for kids, a priority we should all have. Through our kids, we're planting the seeds for future generations in our beloved city. In conclusion, I offer this final thought. While the city's previous concession arrangement likely served its purpose for many years, this new RFP reflects an adaptation to changing times and aligns with the desires of the majority of residents, in my opinion. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Okay, Euron Palacios.
Hello, good afternoon. So my name is Aaron Palacios. I'm 16 years old and I'm here in support of Valiente Tennis Academy. The most qualified respondent in the RFP for the Miami Springs Tennis Center. So I love the sport since I was a kid. And like many kids, I've always dreamed to play tennis at the highest levels. And from my personal experience, I know that it's a very difficult sport that demands all sorts of sacrifices and expert guidance of knowledge and dedicated coaches. That is where Valiente Tennis Academy comes in. Andy Valiente, the head coach of an experienced professional that has been fundamental in my development of the game. The training he provides is carefully planned and has a clear objective that is aligned with my aspirations. Moreover, during the course of my tennis physical conditioning, George Valiente noticed a biomechanical hindrance that no other coach had noticed before. This issue hampered my development in the sport, but thanks to his advice, my parents searched for the right professionals to help me with the necessary aids and corrective therapy. And after several months of therapy sessions, I've greatly improved and I am on my way to fully correct my biomechanical imbalance. So I want to give proper credit to George and his expert advice that helped me solve this issue and put me one step closer to achieving my tennis dreams. I recommend the Valiente Tennis Academy and their team to all the young tennis players who want to learn to play tennis properly, and their parents if they want their hard-earned money spent with a purpose.
Thank you. Okay, Alex Guillamont.
Hi, I'm here also in support of Match Point Tennis. I'm a father of 10 children. We've lived here in Miami Springs since 2010, so 15 years now. And we've done all kinds of sports for the kids. We've done basketball, we've done soccer, we've done flag football, we've done archery, you name it. And tennis has been one of them, with Manny first and with Brad for the last few years. And the spirit of Miami Springs about sports has always been a spirit of inclusion, of making sure that every kid that wanted to play a sport could do that, baseball as well. I was a competitive basketball player for a number of years. That is a different kind of sports attitude, different dynamic, and one which is good for a few of the children, but for the majority of the kids to be able to be with their friends, to meet people from their neighborhood, because now they're all switched on to this. So to be able to come out, to pay a reasonable fee and to play is a great thing that Match Point with Money First and now with Brad is doable. The competitive tennis scheme, any competitive scheme is very good for a minority. But for a business, for a neighborhood like the one we have, the one we love, the one where we've been for the last 15 years and hope to remain, it would completely change the way sports are handled in this neighborhood. And I ask you to take that into consideration. It will be a tremendous change to an attitude that we all love in this neighborhood, one of inclusion, one where children can play with everybody. Again, Match Point is not perfect. With those kids that are very good, it's difficult sometimes for them to have that environment, but we've spoken with Brad before. We've put some of those kids together and they've had their own coach to do that. So even if that's not advertised, by conversation, like the other parent was saying, by conversation, that has been possible. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Okay, Estefania Quiñones.
He's a lot taller than I am. So good evening. Can everybody hear me? So I've played tennis my entire childhood. It stopped in my 20s and I took up pickleball, I think around August. So I'm really enjoying that. My children have been playing tennis for 7 years. My children are not me. I was a very competitive athlete, but I second everything that Alex Guillamont has said, because I did not find a community in general. The vast majority of the children in the league and the parents themselves, I was the junior team tennis coordinator for the weekends. And it was not easy to always get parents and children that were interested in that more competitive level. It has always been much more inclusive. It has always been more enjoyable, to put it in layman's terms. The children that do want to do more can do more, but at least for the last 7 years, from what I have seen within our community, we have more, the children kind of are enjoying it as a more relaxed sport. If you really want more, you can get more, and you can get more within our community. You can have private lessons with Coach Brad. You can continue your USTA rank. It's up to you, but for the vast majority of the children, this program is marvelous. It always has been, it continues to be, and it would be very sad because there are children that I know presently that live within 2.5 blocks who right now can't afford to play tennis. And I've said, I'll give you my kid's racket, I'll do this, I'll do that, because I love the sport. I have this headband on because I played all morning long. I love the sport. I wish it would be promoted more, but if the prices do go up, that would limit even more kids from enjoying the sport. So thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, Tom Webb.
How you doing? Tom Webb, 961 Ibis. I'm going to talk about the HRS contract. I felt sorry for these guys for the last 4 or 5 years. First, they had to deal with COVID, and then they finally get things rolling. What happens? They close a golf course, which had to happen. So all I'm saying, I'm not privy to the contract at all, but I'm assuming it was fair to both parties. I just think they need some relief. Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Carlos Vigas.
Councilman, Madam Mayor, my name is Carlos Gates, and I'm here on behalf of Patrick and Yannick and Whole 19. I'm also the president of the Rotary Club and Hole 19 is where we hold our weekly meetings. I've known Patrick over 15 years, and you know, I've been also, like Tom said, here during the difficult times. He started took over the contract in 2019, and then in 2020 we had the COVID. I was there almost every other day, talking with Patrick, and we're good friends. And then with the closing of the golf course, which again had to happen, but so it's been one difficult thing after the other. I think it's only fair that they get some kind of relief on the rent. And also, I'd heard a rumor that they're going to have to bid again on their contract, which me personally, I find kind of not fair, because again, they're just now coming into the better times. They went through the lean years, and now they're coming up to, a time when they can actually make a profit. And again, it's a rumor I heard, so there's no basis for it. But I think, on behalf of myself and a lot of people here, and definitely the Rotary, that they should get some relief on the rent. Thank you so much.
Thank you, sir. Okay, that's the end of open forum. So we will move now to approval of council minutes for the February 28th workshop and the March 11th regular council meeting.
Through the chair,
Yes, sir.
I'd like to move that we approve 6A and 6B.
Second.
Any discussion? Call the vote, please.
Vice Mayor Bravo,
Yes.
Councilman Santeen,
Yes.
Councilman Behet,
Yes.
Councilman Vasquez,
Aye.
Mayor Mitchell.
Yes,
The motion carries.
thank you. We move to the consent agenda. Is there anyone that has an item that they wish to pull to discuss?
Motion to approve 9A through D.
I'll second that.
Any discussion? Call the vote, please.
Vice Mayor Bravo,
Yes.
Councilman Santeen,
Yes.
Councilman Behet,
Yes.
Councilman Vasquez,
Aye.
Mayor Mitchell.
Yes.
The motion carries.
Okay, thank you. We move to new business. 11A is a resolution. I'll let our
Attorney.
city is it our city manager or city attorney wants
attorney.
to read the resolution?
I'll go ahead and read it, Mayor.
Okay.
This is a resolution of the mayor and city council of the city of Miami Springs, Florida, selecting Deviceful Sports Solutions LLC, doing business as Valiente Tennis Academy for professional tennis management and operation services for the Miami Springs Tennis Center pursuant to request for proposals number 01-2324, providing for authorization and providing for an effective date.
Okay, thank you. Before we proceed any further, I wanted to ask the council's consent. I know, and we have a lot of members here from the public that have spoken about the tennis court management contract. This has been for several months. I know I've gotten a lot of emails and calls and input from residents, and I'm assuming all of the council members have too. So what I'd like to ask is, and Heidi, perhaps you can help us with this. I feel that the committee has done exactly what we asked them to do. JC, our city manager, put together points of what we would like to see in the tennis contract. The contract is up for renewal. I want to state that in the past, and this is before I was on the council, we had a city employee that ran the tennis center. And all of you remember Joel Watts, who I think beloved in our community, and he was a tennis professional. He played at Stanford, I believe, and just an exceptional human being. And he ran the tennis center. And when he retired, the city at that time decided that it was more efficient use of resources instead of hiring a professional to be full-time at the city. Because of the cost of salary plus benefits, every salary, there's not just salary, but it's the cost of benefits, healthcare, and everything else, that it was more efficient to have it managed by an outside firm. And that's when Matchpoint came in, and they've done a fantastic job for all these years. And I want to thank them for that, because they have been a big part of our community for all of these years. The time has come to look at the RFP. I want to state that about 3 years ago, I had asked our city manager to consider putting out an RFP for the management. And at that time, we had so many residents show up at council meetings in support of Matchpoint. very supportive of the services, of the training for their children and everything. So the city decided not to put out an RFP to continue the contract. And I'm giving that just so everyone has an idea of where we are. Okay, so I feel that since we have put out the RFP, and some of you that have reached out to us, we've been in a cone of silence. So we may have gotten your emails and may not have responded to you, but nonetheless, this has been looked into very much so by all of us and of course, our city staff. I would like to request, because we have so many residents that have a concern about our tennis courts. So I would like to request that we have, and we've done this in the past with other contracts, is to have the 3 top companies make a presentation to the council. We have the recommendations of the committee, which was selected to look at the criteria that we asked them to look at. And they have their recommendation, but before, and that's a recommendation to the council. Before we decide, I would like to hear from the 3 top, if the rest of the council agrees, a presentation, and it wouldn't be tonight because they're not ready for it, but a brief presentation from the top 3 candidates.
The top 3 firms. Mayor, I'm happy to work with the city manager to set up a process for what presentation scheme would look like. And that way we can adequately inform the bidders.
Okay, do we need council consent for that?
If the council's in agreement that it would like the presentations,
Okay,
sure.
unless there is, and I want to say, if there is a motion from the council right now to accept this contract and there's a second, we'll take a vote on it. So it's not.
I agree with your proposal.
Okay.
Yes.
Is there, let me ask this. Do we have a motion, and we'll discuss it if there's a motion to discuss this?
Okay.
Okay, but I am requesting the council to, before we make the final decision on this, that we allow a presentation from the top 3 firms, a brief one. I don't remember what we've done in the past, but and that allows the community to hear from them. I mean, they've seen it in paper, but you know, obviously the recreation in Miami Springs, our facilities, our opportunities, our youth programs are extremely important to all of us, whether or not you play tennis or play pickleball. It's important to all of us because it's a reflection of our community. So my hearing, is everyone in agreement with that? Are you willing to allow for the next meeting that we have a presentation? Because again, if someone wants to pass a motion, I'm not stopping you from passing a motion now on this.
Through the chair. I think it's only fair to have the presentations. I was under the interpretation that we may have that going on today, even though we got a recommendation. But I mean, that just makes sense.
We
to
haven't
me.
asked them to prepare that.
No.
So
No, we haven't.
we need to let them know how long the presentation is. And I am guessing 10, 15 minutes each is what we've done in the past for similar situations. Okay, so not hearing any motion, I'm going to move on. All right, we'll move to, and Heidi, then if you could work with the city manager to
Yeah,
establish a
so
process
just
for
so you know,
this.
we'll get together tomorrow. We'll discuss it, and then we'll let the top 3 recommended bidders and let them know with a process that needs to follow, and have no problem with that.
Okay.
Through the chair.
And
I wanted to say something.
Yes, sir. Go ahead.
Through the chair, I understand, and I actually, considering for the sake of transparency, I guess that would probably be the ideal thing, to have the 3 companies come up here and we get a chance to Q&A on a lot of the topics. But I really respect the committee's decision. I've been on these committees before, and they thoroughly put a lot of time into it, and pretty overwhelming in my opinion. But like I said, in respect to Match Point and all the years that they've been here and all the kids that have gone through the system, I guess is not reluctantly, but it kind of brought light that it's probably best that let the public see them. But I am pretty satisfied with the committee's decision. But like I said, for the sake of transparency, I think it's ideal that we have that
And-
situation. So you
And I
have my
just want to
support.
add to what you said, that the committee's recommendation, in my personally adds a lot has a lot of status, has a lot of importance toward this decision. But I think it's also, it behooves us to hear from the three companies, and also for the residents to hear this. And I know what has happened since since our city manager directed the committee on the points to look for. I know I've received a lot of input from residents who didn't even know we were going through this. And, they've reached out in the meantime. So there's a lot of new information too that has been, and I'm guessing all of you have too, has been presented. So I think it's just the best approach, looking for ultimately what we all want is the best for our city, to make the best opportunities and the best programs for our city.
Mayor, I just want
Yes,
to
sir. Yes, ma'am.
remind the council and any of the bidders that the cone of silence will go back into effect at this point.
Okay.
Okay, so no communications with any of the bidders that have bid on this project, on this
Okay.
RFP.
Thank you. And just for those of you that don't know, this morning we had the opening of additional pickleball courts. Thanks to our recreation director and our city manager and the staff. They really looked at it, and we were able to add, is it 2 new pickleball courts that we added
Yeah,
overall?
we resurfaced the whole thing and now there are 4 beautiful pickleball
So
courts
it looks
there.
stunning. Looks really, really nice. And I think we're in the near future, we're going to have other information about recreational opportunities, the city, which we're always looking at. So thank you all for your patience, but check them out if you haven't been by. It's really nice.
Through the chair.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, I was there this morning too. I thought it just looks beautiful. It really does. And I think that all the staff did a great job. Are there enough pickleball courts? No, probably not. I'm sure, given everything that we've talked about over the last 3 years, I think we took an important step forward, made a commitment, and we took a step forward. I won't be joining you on the course anytime soon, but I'm looking forward to that place being packed and used, and more conversations about this in the future. So congratulations to all, and enjoy it.
Yes, thank you. Okay, so we move now to item 11B, and it's another resolution. Heidi or JC, which one do you want to read
Sure.
this?
This is a resolution of the mayor and city council of the city of Miami Springs, Florida, approving a second amendment to the city of Miami Springs Country Club Food and Beverage Concessionaire Agreement with HRS Management Group LLC, providing for authorization and providing for an effective date.
Mayor, if I may, shortly after I started here, my employment with the city, I met with Patrick and Yannick to discuss the issue of the outstanding payment that they hadn't made. Apparently at some point they stopped making the payment. In meeting with them, they were like, hey, the golf course hit us hard. So in meeting with them, I met with our finance director. We reviewed their finances, got their tax returns from 2022, reviewed the finances and saw that in essence, they were hit about 28%. That was the reduction that they saw if you space it out. So in discussing with finance, we said, well, if we give them a break of 2.5 months out of the year that the course was closed, if we give them a break of 2.5 months, that represents about 28%. And meeting with them, they said, we're open to that. We're in agreement with that. The other requirement I made is I said, you have to pay us the remainder now, which they did. They gave us a cashier's check on Friday. So they're up to date, they're current pending the council's decision today. So I did want to let you know that. So the golf course, like it or not, it affected them. It affected them. The beverage card is just one component of it that's in their contract. So I didn't think it was unreasonable out of the year that it was closed. It's supposed to be 6 months, and then it took 6 months longer to finish. Out of the year for 2.5 months, and that's why I made the recommendation to you. I just thought it was fair.
All right, thank you, sir.
And then if I may, I'm sorry, Jackie, Vice Mayor. And the other thing that I added in there was a month-to-month extension, because of if we're gonna go out to bid, I didn't want to be left out there in the golf course now that we're finally open. I didn't want to be left without a food and beverage provider. So I included there the month-to-month, and I know some of you in my one-on-ones with you, that like month-to-month might be a little difficult, might be tough. I understand that. I'm not opposed to anything else that you may suggest, but that's why I added it in there.
The month to month is after, can you clarify the month to month?
It's after the contract expires in July, it would be month-to-month after that to provide us with coverage in case the council decides to go, wanting to go out to bid at that point.
I think just to clarify that point, Mayor and Council, the existing contract provides that at the end of this term that ends in July, that the city would have the option to do up to an additional 5 years. So instead of going an additional 5 years, what the manager is proposing, I think sort of in exchange for this concession and waiver of some of the payments, is going on a month to month after July.
Through the chair.
Yes.
I would like to discuss this item because I put a lot of time and effort into this. You know, I see our city, and I see our city has a lot of potential. Okay. And I know everybody here feels the same way. I appreciate Patrick and Yannick for the service that you've done. Okay. And I understand how hard it is to have a business. 100%, because of what I've asked, I know. I don't talk about what I don't know. What I do know is that when I see a business that's in distress, you start seeing a pattern of events. So I understand. I'm going to go back with the timeline. COVID-19, it hit everybody. I understand that. I have no issues with giving somebody a break during COVID. The whole state was under distress. As far as COVID, we have a bunch of businesses here, a bunch of restaurants, and I'm going to just name a few mom and pops that have also gone through COVID, because we're going to go through the hiccup. And I'm here today. I'm glad you guys are here because we need to have a meeting of the minds, and it has to be both good for you and good for the city. I mean, my city is always needing money. We get into budget and we realize we have a shortage here. We have a shortage there. Now we have the beautiful, the memorial that's going to come up, which we were expecting a certain amount, and now it's coming double. So as much as I want to give away money, I don't think our city right now, financially responsible, now with budget coming up, I'm going to be able to do that, because I know there's going to be things that are going to come up in budget where I'm going to be like, well, I'm sorry, I can't give that to you because I'm now, you know, helping out and subsidizing my money to businesses. And that's not the way that the city works. So HRS has a lot of good qualities. Okay. You have great parking, probably one of the best. I mean, I know I can go probably to HRS park and go into the restaurant. The other ones, I got to go around the circle 100 times, but we're doing it and we're going to get there soon. Street traffic is great. The golf course is a plus, but it's not the business. Your product is a restaurant, food, beverage, entertainment. You have a large building capacity, which I think that you have between, I read it somewhere here. You had a lot of opportunities for seating up to, I think, 50 to 149 seats. That's a huge occupancy rate compared to a lot of restaurants that we have here in Miami Springs. Ballrooms, you have supplemental income avenues that a lot of these other businesses and restaurants can't do. It's either restaurant or you close up, okay? And they're also paying rents. So you have those are really good aspects about HRS opportunities that you have there right on the golf course, okay? This wasn't put together to come into an argument with you or with HRS or the community. I'm just trying to shed to light what potentials we have to tap into there. And I, for one, I know that I see more of the older crowd. I'm the younger. I want to go ahead and support my local businesses too, but I'm going to go where I see a demand or what it is that I like too. Now, the other businesses, okay, we have our local eateries. We have Roman's Pizza, Cozy Corner, Burritoville, Siamos, Ceviches, Paco's Way, which is, by the way, super expensive and it's always packed. My Little Greek Deli, King Chef, a little bit of Philly. I know they're in BG, but they have a great product. Old Tom Sports Grill, Suvi Thai, Antojos Peruanos, which is on Westward, and a couple bakeries, Bella Bakery, Vito's Bakery, Twice as Sweet, which you know how hard it is to keep a business running. Okay. And Basilico, which is on 36th Street, close enough, but you're there. Some of the things that they don't have that HRS does have, okay, they have difficulties. They have limited parking. They have no golf course. So they don't really have any, the golf course is not there. So if you're going to be relying on that, they don't rely on that. They have very small restaurants. I mean, look at Ceviches. They were like doing amazing. And now they're moving over to the new town center. So they have, most of these restaurants are in small, ubicated retail spaces. And they have zero opportunities to make other incomes, like as in ballrooms, or doing whatever you want. You have a tremendous asset. You could do whatever you want there to make yourself survive. The city has supported, and we can't say we haven't, we have supported HRS, we have supported Whole 19. Previous councils have supported Whole 19. But the problem is here is that we're going into a continuation of, it's not only food and beverage, we have a golf course, right? We have a country club that has other amenities to be rented. And that's how we kind of like make our money. We're not on a profit sharing with Whole 19. So now the city is looking into other avenues so that we can go ahead, and we want to be fair because they have a business to run, but we need to tap into avenues where money comes back to us, where we can create a fund and go ahead and make those investments back to the country club when needed. I mean, not until the other day, they were just patching up some of the concrete wall. It's really sad to see that the building is decaying. Now, I'm not saying that it's 100% their fault, because I'm going to give you two both ways. The city does have responsibilities to go and do their follow-up inspections. In their contract, it stipulates that every 6 months or so, or whenever they can, they could go by and say, hey, you know what, we need to fix this. It's not, up to par. But same thing, you're running a business, something's falling apart, city's liable. Hey, come and fix this up. I have a business to run. This can't look like this. Okay. There was a lot of items that I requested since back in November 21st, because I was really trying to grasp this and really trying to understand like why we are where we are today. Also, we have a lot of inconsistencies as far as like hours of operation. We have now, we went into, what was it? We started now remodeling a bathroom, right? And it's part of their contract to renovate a bathroom. But where I'm getting at here is that we are not, I don't want to throw anybody on the table. I'm not trying to do that, but we also have to follow procedure. I would have not allowed a permit to open for a bathroom if we're in financial distress. Okay, so I don't understand how we could get to the point of renovating a bathroom, but we don't have money to pay up to rent. It just doesn't make sense. You pay your rent first, and then you go ahead and make your improvements, right? Where I'm getting at here is that everybody's gone through COVID. Everybody has moved forward. The difference is you either have a product that's in demand, a restaurant in this case, or you don't. So something's got to give. If there's no business action plan to prove where we're going with this, we're going to be back at square A. There was also, what do you call that, Mayor? A committee that was put together for the RFPs.
To select.
Right.
Yes. It went through a similar selection as the
back then.
tennis.
And unfortunately, HRS was not the most favorable. They were the least ranked. I'm not saying that maybe they had the potential. Maybe they saw something in them that, hey, you know what? Let's give this guy a shot. He could probably do it. Okay, we did that. But we can't neglect. For me, it's neglecting something that's been a pattern. It's been more than 3 times asking for reduced rent. We are in total of close to $50,000 in unpaid revenue, with obviously the deduction being that they come with a $33,000 check.
They already did. They already paid that.
Right. And that's fine, because for me, that's coming up to date with something that you guys are talking about, but there's no season. I haven't, for me as a city manager, I would like to see a business account with seasoned funds, meaning if we give this person an opportunity, can they keep this up and keep going, or will they come back? It's hard things to deal with, but we really do need to look at those things, because if not, I could give him a chance now, and it's not fair to the owner, because maybe I'm setting him up for future failure. Now I'm exhausting other resources. Now we have to come back to city attorney to adjust this. So we have to look at this from both perspectives. Do we have something sustainable where we're not going to come to the table again? Or where is this going to lead at? We have inconsistencies in the hours of operations. According to the agreement, we're supposed to be at 82 hours of dedication. And based on Google and website, we're at 63 hours. So the less hours you put into your business, you're not going to see the results you're looking for. Again, I just know a little bit of what I'm learning. I want something good for the community. And my recommendation is for us to, it's not on the agenda, but my recommendation is to propose an RFP. Okay, if they want to go ahead and continue at the month until we figure this out, I'm okay with that. But to entertain a pattern that's been continuously fading, I don't think I'd be willing to entertain. It's very hypocritical. There's also on the forgivenesses that we've done, there's also a stipulation of 1.5% interest on every late payment, which I believe we have not done. And it was only waived for March of 2020 to August of 2020. We were under a misunderstanding that it was waived. So there's like a lot of little things start to add up. And my community wants so much, but how could I give you if I'm giving where I shouldn't be giving? So, I mean, I don't want to get too much into detail because it's going to be we're going to kind of sidetrack on the mission, because what I did was like go down the rabbit hole here, but I think it's kind of self-explanatory. If anybody needs anything from me, you can go ahead and send me an email. Everything is public record. If you're having a misunderstanding, I'm here to
Thank you,
provide that
Councilwoman.
information.
Vice Mayor. Yes, sir.
Thank you.
Councilman, go ahead.
I appreciate all the points that the vice mayor brings up, because I think that they are good points. I've lived here my whole life, and I respect people who are locals. Captain Deal and his wife were taught Spanish by my mom. I used to play basketball with Matt Castillo when we were a whole lot younger at the old rec center. I supported Tammy Romero when we were looking for a city manager. I believe in putting faith and giving chances to people who are locals, who are part of this community. And I know that I'm hearing from people in the community that I respect, that are part of this community, and I happen to know the people who are in charge of Hole 19. So having said that, I think that while all the points that the vice mayor brings up are true, I think that these things didn't happen in a vacuum. I don't feel like they were given a fair shot because they were dealt a pretty crappy hand. Nobody could have anticipated. I mean, when they were given the shot to be the caterer for the
Okay.
one
please,
moment.
Excuse me, please.
Let me finish.
You can clap when we have someone talking and they're talking about an issue during public forum, but right now, we're listening to Councilman.
Thank you. I listen. At the end of the day, what I think we're doing here is we are giving them a fair shot. And no one could have anticipated when they signed on the dotted line to be the caterers. Nobody could have anticipated a global pandemic. And then when the golf course got shut down, nobody could have anticipated that it would have been closed twice as long as we had said. As far as I'm concerned, a 28% loss. They opened up their books to our staff. As far as I'm concerned, a 28% loss, given all the hurdles that were put in front of them, is actually not that bad. And I think it's very hard to assess the extent to which somebody is struggling when they're having to deal with unforeseen things the way they have. Although I supported Tammy for city manager, my second choice was JC. Since JC has come in, he has shown me that he is very willing to work with the people that he has. My sense from numerous conversations with him is that he wants to also, I think we share that we want people that are locals he is the one who decided to have Captain Deal become the chief. I think that he mirrors this same vision. He came in and told me and us that he wanted to try to reset the relationship with HRS. I trust him, and I think that he's done that. And I think that, you know, we don't have to get into a long-term contract, but I think that the fact that they are pulled the permits to fix the bathrooms, which is something that they had to do, is showing that they are trying to get back up to their current now. They're trying to comply with all the things that they had to do despite all the obstacles that they had to overcome. I just personally believe that they are strong members of this community, and that they deserve a shot to actually show what they can do without these kind of unforeseen things that have really been setbacks that would have probably sunk anybody else. So that's just my opinion.
Through the chair.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, so I want to talk about a couple of things. Okay. I've gone ahead and I looked at this contract. Okay. And I'm willing to put in the work because we need to be very clear on what we're doing here. So the current agreement has the following defaults already. Okay. 1.5 length of term and commencement date of agreement. Amended 6+ months without payback to the city. Okay, I have the structures here that were provided many times. I added all the months and all of the months we've either deferred or we removed, which is a significant amount. Again, I understand COVID. I understand it. But it's not only about COVID. It's a lot about a lot of things. Again, all these restaurants went through it, but we're coming back. So 1.8, concessionaire duties. 1.1, compliance with public record law. Because I've been asking for a lot of things. You received the tax returns. I
Excuse
didn't.
me, if someone wants to speak, would you please go out in the hallway because the voices carry here? Thank you.
I was waiting for that because I want to see if there's a trend, if it's coming down and taking into consideration of COVID and other hiccups. I get it. So I want to see that. I'm really trying to do my due diligence this year. We have unpaid revenue of 1.5%. Those are like what the bank charges you, late fees. It's part of the plan. So we still have that to account for. I don't know if we're even billing them for that. Annual revenue payments. This is what we're discussing right now. And if you don't know, I mean, the city has a liquor license. And the biggest plus here, we know that liquor makes money, right? No matter where you take it, you can take it in a cart in the corner of the block, okay? HRS runs on city liquor license. That's a big value alone. And I'm okay with it, but run with it, make money with it. 10.3 responsibility for alterations, 10.4 construction, 10.7 is huge, securing capital improvements fund. What that means in the contract is even if the company was in good standing, before you make any alterations or construction to the city asset, you need to come, ask for permission, and stipulated there, the city manager will say yay or nay. But based on the current condition of the contract, it's common sense, you don't have to read it. You wait and you say, no, we got to come up to our priorities first. And then when we do this, the security capital improvements funds, let me read it to you so you could understand what this is. And this is for the protection of the city. I need people to understand it. Because then if we mismanage money, then taxes go up, right? We hear it all the time, all the time. So securing capital improvements fund, prior to filing any notice of commencement and submission of any plans to the city for the issuance of building permits, concessionaire shall provide to the city a method of securing the funds to be used for the corresponding improvements. Concessionaire may furnish the city with a construction bond, letter of credit, or funds held in a construction escrow account in the cumulative amount of the construction contracts associated with the build-out and construction plan which names city as the beneficiary. Notwithstanding such requirements, concessionaire shall solely be responsible for any and all costs, including but not limited to copies of invoices, framework, etc. That's one. So we need to have a security bond to make sure you can finish the construction, because right now we're trying to comply with tenant payments. So for me, it's backwards. 10.2, concessionary alterations. Prior to seeking to permit or commencing the construction of any alterations to food and beverage operation areas, concessionaire shall submit to the city with a listing of any and all such improvements with all the plans and specifications and schedules. I don't know if we have that. I mean, I think we do. I'm not sure. So how do I know if this doesn't work out? You leave, and I'm not saying anybody's gonna do that, but now I have one bathroom that's not working. So now I'm in a worse position. I may have to take care of it. What I'm saying is that if we have tools that Weiss, Sirota, and Firm, so much that we, has given to us, and we're not using it, this is where this starts costing us money. Again, I'm about opportunity. I have 3 businesses. I know the struggle. I've been working since I'm 14 years old. But what I do want to make sure is that when you give people chances, we could sustain, because what's the point that I'm teasing the crowd? Let's give them a chance. Everybody wants them there. It's a teasing game. But at my tax dollar expense, I live here too. I want to go enjoy the golf course. I want to go enjoy the amenities. But I think we also need to level up. And if your product is not working, you need to change it. You do. I don't know if you want to talk about anything else. I mean,
Let's see if we have any
Okay.
other comments from the rest of the council.
The chair.
Yes, sir.
I understand to a certain extent, of course, because she's bringing some good points. You can't deny that. But COVID, that for me is not I mean, it's an excuse, but everybody was on the same playing field, every single business in this community. And some found a way to survive and some didn't. So credit to HRS that they were able to sustain a difficult time and find themselves on their feet and continue to battle. But the part I disagree completely is that most businesses don't have a complete surprise attack from within this own industry. And part of this contract that they bidded, I'm sure that the revenues that they expected is because of the foot traffic from the golf course. So to the golf course to be completely unexpectedly, because it wasn't something that was pre-warned, to me, that's a big deal, because that's how you calculate your numbers. So that whole year that they took away is significant. And then I think that considering that they've been open to show the books for that particular year, I don't think it's asking a lot that for that particular year, they're asking for a discount on that particular loss. And then for the suggestion of the month to month, or after they go up in their contract in July, I personally do not agree with that. How can you have someone like this in the middle of going through all the other processes and trying to put their foot forward, and we're going to leave them with a month-to-month contract? To me, that's not the way to put commitment and faith on a company that we're trying to hope that succeeds. So I'm definitely in disagreement to do the month-to-month. I think you need to commit to them so they can commit to going forward. At least at minimum, a probational period of a year more, but definitely not a month-to-month.
Okay,
Through
let's see.
the chair.
Just a second. Go ahead, Councilwoman. Let's see. Is there anything?
Go ahead. You had a question about this?
I
Yes, sir.
did want to say, I only put that in there just to cover for the gap, like I explained before. If the council wants to extend it a year, that's fine. I wasn't ready to recommend an extra 5 years. I wanted to kind of see how it went with them afterward. And I spoke with Yannick directly, and I said, hey, this is, your last, your warning, your chance. If you're late again, it's going to be a default letter, and it's going to happen. So, and he understood, and he goes, hey, you're not going to have a problem with me anymore. And I have no reason to doubt him. So, whatever the council wants to do,
Through
I'm
the chair.
okay with it.
Okay. Yes, sir.
So a couple of things. Thank you all for all the points that you've raised. I know that the time that I've been sitting in council, There have been some issues, right? Some back and forth with Yannick, of some things that weren't done when they should be done. I didn't do as extensive a preparation, and I congratulate the councilwoman for raising those points. The way I look at this is, first of all, this is a business owned by members of our community. And that to me is very important. I opened up a business many years ago, and a year and a half later, had to close it. Businesses are very difficult to manage, and I learned a very important lesson. And so it's not a business I frequent a lot, but I do frequent the 19 hole, and I know a lot of members here do as well. I think it's important to recognize that we've got to sort of grab the bull by the horn and say, okay, this is where we are now. I don't agree with the month. I mean, I understand why you put that in there. I, as a business owner, probably wouldn't, well, month to month, and this is not a long-term commitment. I would agree with a year or two at most. And I would agree that the city council reserves the right every time with any business and anything else in the city to go out for bids at a particular moment and look at what other opportunities are there. We just did that with the tennis courts. We're going to be looking at that more closely at the different bids that came in. So why not? Why not look at that here in the case of a business that's been here a long time? The golf course is open. As far as I can see, it's been full every day, which means potential customers for you all. And so that's where I fall within this. I mean, I think that a substantial extension like that, understanding that like any other endeavor that we're responsible for, we reserve the right that at this particular time we go out to bids, and they will have the opportunity to bid as anyone else, just as the tennis group had an opportunity to bid, and others as well. And we're going to be looking at those tennis courts bids soon. So that's where I fall on this.
Okay, Councilwoman, you wanted to
Thank you.
continue?
So going back to the hours, again, putting the hours into your business is important. Okay, so Hole 19 is open Monday through Saturday. They start at 2 p.m. Okay, and Sunday at 1 p.m. It's on their website. It's right here, and it's on Google. I just wanted to make sure we're talking about the same person. On the agreement, we're supposed to be open Monday through Friday, 9 a.m. Saturday and Sunday, 8 a.m. and Saturday and Sunday in the beverage cart, 7 a.m. We're talking so much that we rely on the golf course. But if you're not open during those times where the golfers are out, you're not going to make money. Now, if your method is to run a food and beverage and forget about the golf course, because your sales should not rely, I understand it health, it's a supplement. For me, if it was my restaurant, I would say it's a restaurant first. The golf is a plus because I need to make
I'm
sure.
going to ask again, if someone has to talk, please step outside. Your voices carry up here. We're trying to have a discussion. Thank you.
So I have to prepare in times where I have to come in open-minded that sometimes the golf course may have renovations. It may be closed. There may be something. You always have to have a foot forward. So I'm going to make sure my baby is taken care of first, and it could be fed without the golf course. Now, if this agreement was verbalized saying this business is tied into directly with the sales of the golf course, then we're talking about something else, right? Because we went into business saying it's tied one-on-one, but this is an individual contract with a food and beverage restaurant. So treat it as such. It's a great, great asset. And I mean, my God, to have an opportunity to run your business there, it's a beautiful thing. But if you don't take care of it, it comes and goes. I want something good there for you. And I know that there's relationships tied here. I'm not trying to do anything wrong. What I'm trying to do is give us options. Why not? Why can't it be better? I mean, if you ask a business owner if something could be better, they're always going to tell you yes, right? Because that's their hope. If that mentality is not there to move yourself forward, and we're going to use crutches, then nothing, no matter how many chances, it's not going to work. It's not going to work. If there's a trend I'm gonna leave it at that. I've exhausted my points. We have to be financially responsible. I don't know if Chris, you can tell me off the bat how much of money we've allowed for them to not pay. Do you have that number? So I know it's more
Are
than
you asking
$50,000.
during the pandemic, following the pandemic
No,
also,
in
or
combination up
just
to date.
from,
In
so the
combination.
past 4.5 years, I guess?
The point is, I don't want to continue in a habit where the city cannot bail businesses out. I can't do it for HRS. I can't do it for CM. I can't do it for anybody. I mean, that's just me. I'm talking for myself. If I had to sustain my books, I can't. And now with budget coming, it just makes no sense whatsoever. So when it's gonna get tight.
Chris, do you have that information?
Good evening, Mayor and Council. As far as I know, the First Amendment, we forgave 2 months of rent for $4,000.
When was that, Chris? Is that following the pandemic? That, I think it was more than that.
Well, I have it was March and April of 2020.
Oh, no,
I think
We,
this was-
that was in the spring of 2020. I had just been elected and I remember that we voted on that, on forgiving 2 months, and then
we have 4 months, which we deferred $9,000 over the remainder of the
Okay, that's what
contract,
I remember.
which is in the existing amount of the payments. So in essence, what tonight would be an additional 2.5 months, including those 2.5 months of those deferrals, which comes to about $600, roughly $528, and the 4,000 that was forgiven back in 2020.
Okay, let's do this to clarify, because we're going around and talking about a lot of things. For tonight, with this resolution, how much are we talking about forgiving?
$15,235.86.
Okay, 15,000, and that is, JC, could you clarify what that covers? The 15,000
That's
is the 28.
The 20,
Chris?
roughly 28%, but it's 2.5 months.
Okay, and that's 28% of their revenues from, you're looking at their
Yes,
books
that they looked at, the
that-
losses that we saw
that you saw.
according to their.
And we're
financials.
basing these losses, and correct me if I'm wrong, this is my understanding, you're basing those losses from their books on that HRS said that a large part of the revenue comes from alcohol sales. And since the golf course has been closed for renovations, the alcohol sales are from golfers who stay, I guess, after golfing,
Lunch,
maybe before.
alcohol,
And so they've lost that. It's a temporary patronage, but they've lost that. So that is the 28% that you're adjusting. Is that
and
correct?
on top of that, the beverage cart for the golf course as well. was
The
included
beverage
in-
card also, which is they operate it and they run it and they keep those revenues.
Correct,
Okay.
as part of the
And as of right now that we're open, that,
They can speak more, but in the meeting I had with them last week, once we opened, they said they saw an increase of 35%.
and the beverage card is operating and okay, so look, because we're going around talking about a lot of things, I just want to clarify what we're talking about tonight. And yes, in the past, we have forgiven, overlooked, I don't know what wording has been used, deferred payments, but what we're talking about tonight is 15,000,
Correct.
right? To bring them to start fresh
Start
going
fresh,
forward.
current.
Okay,
They
and I
made-
want,
They made the remaining payment, which I
Okay.
think is an important. fact.
and in this reso is also the month-to-month continuation afterwards, or that's separate? That's-
In the reso, that was included in there,
That's in
but,
there,
but
okay.
that can be modified if the
Okay.
council. so
I feel
chooses.
very strongly the month-to-month, I agree with Councilman Santeen, month-to-month. I mean, where do you go? All of us will be, we don't know if they're going to be there and next, the next 2
Could
weeks. So
understand.
I think,
Mayor?
if we're going to extend it, I think a reasonable period is a year. A
So-
year is something that you can work on. Where, God forbid, nothing else happens. The golf course is beautiful condition. It's renovated, everything going forward. We don't have a hurricane, which is the other problem right now, this time of the season, but
Mayor, we can
yes.
update that provision if the council agrees. I don't know if we're talking about this here on the dais, but we can set it up that it's up to 5 additional 1-year periods. So in other words, at the end of July, when the agreement, the first 5-year period concludes, then the manager would have the ability to extend up to 5 1-year
year periods, and the council would be the ones to vote on that, the extension,
it-
or is that just
it
the
would be
manager? The
automatic.
manager would just.
We can
If
do
you
it
want it
either
to
way.
come
If
back.
if you want it to come back, it can come back. I have
I
no
think
offense
we
to
would
that.
like to come back,
think-
yes, of coming back to extend it. I think that that's a reasonable time because it allows for us to know what's happening in the next year. I mean, we're talking about July. This is right around the corner.
Sure.
And the golf course, you know, just was just recently renovated. It allows the vendor to prepare for a year, work toward that, and see if realistically, after a year, they might feel that, you know, that even with the golf course running and all this, it's not in their best interest to renew the contract or to greatly change it. And it also allows us to look at other options. But I want to make some comments on this. We talked about the committee process. And this committee process, I can tell you, we went through the committee process. You're right, Vice Mayor, they were not the top choice. It was a 3-2 vote, and we're a democracy, and that's how they were selected after the committee had recommended someone else. However, I think once that was a selection, I know I was totally on board of supporting whoever is selected, and I think the community has been totally on board of supporting them. Councilman Fahed, I wanted to make a comment to what you said about that you like to see you know, businesses in Miami Springs that are owned by residents and supporting them. I agree with you. I love to see them here, but by the same token, I think it's really important. And I like to attract businesses from outside. I love to attract people to invest in our community, even if they don't live here, to come and invest in our community. They might decide to move here down the road, but that's a really important factor too. So I think there's a balance there. If we limit things to, you know, we're always giving preference because they're a resident, how would that encourage people from outside to invest in our community to come consider doing business here? So I think that's an important concept. And I think realistically that you feel like that
Yep.
we're very open and appreciative of having outside investment in our city. One of the things that I don't understand, and I agree with the Vice Mayor of what she said, a point that you brought up with banquet facilities. The banquet facilities, and I know we had COVID but other than that, the banquet facilities are not dependent on the golf course being open or not being open. You know, it's usually banquets are in the evenings when the golf course is closed. And there doesn't seem to have been significant
Staffing.
well, just I guess promotion of that, of the banquet facilities. And that is a source of income for the management there. And realistically, it's a beautiful golf course and country club, and it allows having banquet facilities there, showcases our city, encourages people to get familiar with our city. So it's a win-win for our community, and it's certainly a win-win for the vendor, and there doesn't seem to have been there. And I would like to suggest going forward this next year, I would like to see more of that, of, you know, promotion, I guess, outside. I know it's advertised locally, but, you know, where's the promotion outside for weddings and other things to be held there? And that's a great financial opportunity for you. Right now, because we're closed, because we've been closed because of the renovations, but some of the hourly things, I think they're the lack of consistency in hours when they're opened, particularly in the morning. It's a golf course. I expect to go there and find coffee and be able to, and that hasn't been the case. You know, I guess the golf cart is running around the golf course, but I'm not golfing, but I'd like to go by the golf course and have coffee in the mornings and not just on a weekend morning. And I find that those kinds of things can be improved going forward. Again, where we are right now. But I want to, and I'll allow anyone else on the council, of course, to speak. We don't have a motion yet to approve this. But I want to make sure that we all understand that regardless of what has happened in the past, right now, we're just deciding whether to allow a $15,000 deduction of what's due that they have paid to date. Everything else, you had a cashier's check, JC, you said.
Correct.
So this is all we're allowing to go to July. And then the other thing that we're considering, and Heidi, correct me if I'm wrong, is once we get to July, do we ask for an RFP right then? Or do we allow another term, period, month to month, year, or whatever, for them to kind of get their footing before we ask for an RFP. And realistically, it helps us get our footing too, instead of, I think that, allowing a certain period going forward there is, a good thing for the city too.
Mayor, just to summarize what the proposed amendment to the agreement would do, it does 4 things, and you mentioned some of them, but I want to make sure that everybody understands the full picture. So the first thing, as noted, was waiving the 15,000 and change for past due payments from July through September 15th. The second part is waiving the late fees and interest on the past due payments from July 2023 through and including this month, March 2024.
Could you clarify how much that is?
Chris, do you have that amount?
Do we have a general idea of what that is?
I mean, we would have to calculate that back to several years. I haven't done that at this
Okay.
point in time.
All right. Continue, please.
The third thing that it does is the way it was drafted would be to provide for the month to month, but it sounds like there would be consensus if a motion were made, that third prong would be to provide for an option to renew the agreement for up to 5 one-year periods. And then the fourth thing that this amendment does is it provides for a revised monthly revenue payment in the amount of $6,500 during each month of that renewal term.
And it will increase, and I spoke with Yannick already, every 6 months it goes up by 500, and that practice would continue.
To the chair.
Yes, Van.
They're struggling now. Why would you increase? We can't, I don't want to set up people for failure. I mean, we've given a cumulative of deferred payments of 12 months, adding everything up. And before we even got into the 15,000, I think it was in their best interest to say, hey, let's come up with something so that we're just asking for such and such. And this customer activity listing sheet that I got, this was up to date, February 26, 24. We're at a current default balance of 51,824.55. According to the agreement, we're not supposed to give, let's say we were healthy, because not healthy. The city's not allowed to give more than 3 notices in any given year. If we were to be doing natural processes, which we could in the last year and a half, we would have given a notice out every month. Like what I'm trying to say is I think it's responsible, and I'm going to make a motion that we seek out an RFP when they terminate. If they want to come ahead and bring it forward and propose something, but we're here trying to make a motion and to try to move forward with this when I still don't even have a business action plan or something that will suffice something to show, hey, I can do this. It's sustainable. Who's going to bail the city out when I need money? Tell me. Me, myself, and I, and my community and their tax dollars. I mean, we have to understand, as much as we want to help, again, if I can see an account with seasoned funds, this is not my job criteria to be getting into the weeds here. But any business owner knows that you need reserves. How the $33,000 came up, I don't care. Is it an account with seasoned reserves that you can come out a year in for? I don't know. But again, I wouldn't entertain a no profit sharing here either. So 2 things. I like to see an RFP in July. They want to go ahead and go month to month, do what you got to do, run with it, apply again. And the last thing was, I forgot, because it's just, I feel like I'm going around in circles. But it's important that we look at other options.
Mayor?
Councilman Fahet.
Yes. Did you have something to say?
I just wanted to clarify. I think just for everybody's understanding, the city is able to go out to RFP at any time. So it doesn't need to be at the conclusion of this. Usually as we're approaching the conclusion, and I think that that's the expectation, the city could and would go out to RFP.
Well, my motion is to request an RFP now to get consensus on
let's
that.
hold up
But wait,
before-
let me finish my comment, Mayor.
Councilwoman, wait, we recognized Councilman Fahet, and you can make a motion
hear,
after
sorry.
if you like.
Thank you, Mayor.
Okay. So Thank you. Once again, I think that the points that the vice mayor brings up are valid points, and I think that there are concerns, and I think that they are being heard. And I'm glad that they're being brought forward, and I'm glad that the mayor brought up that you want to strike a balance. I don't think that any of us feel like we should be exclusively giving preference to local people that are trying to have businesses. We want to attract others. But I think that because this is a locally owned business, that they need to be extended a certain amount of grace, given what they went through, given the fact that the golf course was closed for twice as long as it was supposed to, for no fault of their own. I feel like we're kind of resetting here. We have a new golf course. We're going to have a new golf director soon. We've got new management in the city. This is a different council than the one that got into this contract. I feel that given those things, I would like to make a motion to approve 11B and allow for an extension of the contract for up to 5 years. That comes before the council for renewal approval every year, so that at that time we can give them a shot and be able to address all of these very valid concerns on a year-to-year basis, because I think it will cause them to show us what they can do. They will hustle. I can't imagine that they won't be hair on fire trying to do their very best. And I think that it's the right thing to do.
I second that motion.
Through the chair.
Can I
Okay.
get clarification?
This-
Mr. Manager, you had mentioned $6,500, and I just want to make sure that our agreement and that everybody's in agreement that it'll be $6,500 during the renewal.
Yeah, starting, so
It would be July 1st or
August 1st, yeah,
August.
whatever it is.
And then I think you said every 6 months thereafter.
Every 6 months. The current contract allows for a $500 increase every
Increase.
6 months.
Okay.
So I would just extend the same terms
Okay.
there.
We'll add that into the contract, assuming that that's part of your motion.
Yes, and it is my understanding that was agreed to by HRS.
Okay, what, in the motion, what, as far as the extension
Uh,
of the
up to
contract, did you
5
have
years.
something?
No, just that it would be up to 5 years with a yearly renewal that would come to the council, so that we could discuss all these things, at the end of every year, and then if we decide to go to an RFP at that time, but at least it gives them an opportunity to show us what they could do.
I'm going to ask again, if you're talking, please go outside in the hallway. Your voices carry up here. Thank you. Was there a second?
There were two.
Okay, so discussion. It's open for discussion. One thing I'll start with the discussion is what I would suggest with this motion that you have, Councilman Fahet, is that the 1 year period starts now. Instead of July, it's 1 year. We're fully open right now, which means April instead of waiting for July, because in July we don't even meet. And that's a complicated thing. So if it were to be a 1 year extension, or maybe it's not a 1 year extension, let's see, the contract ends in July. So say the extension would be
The extension would
April.
be from August to the following July. So their contract, their current 5-year
Is
contract
already in place.
is terminating in July.
Okay, so July, and also it's summer and all this, so I don't think that that's a good plan for all of a sudden for us to be, but we could, I would suggest that it be from August, right? What I guess what I'm trying to get at is that we're back in April is looking at, and then after that, it could be year to year or whatever, but
I
it's
see.
not.
So in other
Point of
words,
clarification.
I think I understand.
Point of
In other
clarification.
words, you would like for each April prior to a renewal term, during the April meeting, that's when you would determine whether the following year's extension would be approved.
I believe, let me clarify. We said in the contract where it's written right now is an extension month to month. So month to month would be, which
We're
I don't
done
think
with
any
that,
of us
yeah.
are
After
in agreement
July.
of that,
That's
right?
out.
I think 1 year is probably longer than we need, because 1 year brings us into the summer where it's budget time and all of this, and there's a lot going on if we're talking about August. So I would like to see that if this is, if it's extended, it is in April of each
Clar-
year.
but Mayor,
And,
point of
and that is just my
clarification.
suggestion because I think it's a better time for us to
Point
do
of
an
order.
RFP, to get information in.
Point of order.
Oh, I'll let you.
Wait,
I'm just saying, just to
So,
clarify,
and it
you're
would be-
asking for an amendment to the motion he made.
Yes, an amendment
gotta
to the
be directed
motion you
to that.
made, and I'm suggesting that just if you would like to consider that, so
I-
that when it first would come up, if the motion passes and it's extended instead of month to month, we're actually talking about for the first year, it would be in April is when the RFP
Mayor, I
would,
would,
or when we would have the option of extending it another year.
Mayor, I wouldn't, I believe to Heidi's point, I would bring it way before the summer to come in and
Right.
discuss.
That's the point, Mayor, I was going to make, that one of the reasons that JC proposed the month to month is that even if we all right now decided, let's go for RFP at the end of this contract, I don't even think that we would be able to get that together from now
Be
to
tight, you know,
July.
and
right?
there'd probably
So
be some overlap.
I
but
believe that if we extend them year to year at the end of their contract, which expires in July, in April is where we can, in April, a year from now, we'll be talking about, hey, so what are we going to do? Let's take a look at what they did in this year. And at that time, we could say, hey, look, it seems that we should try getting our ducks in a row to get in our RFP together.
So we would be getting the RFP in April.
Mayor,
Together. I just
Just
want to
as-
avoid in the summer and with our budget process in August and everything that we're also trying to
Making that-
make this because it's a budget issue, how much we,
I completely understand. I think we're talking about two different things. One is the term of the renewal periods and when the council would be determining if it is going to be renewed or not. And then the other is when the city can issue an RFP. The city can do that at any time. If the manager wanted to issue an RFP tomorrow, he could. Obviously, when the council directs him to do so, I'm sure he would do so as well. But I don't want there to be any confusion that if the city wants to issue an RFP, it can. So I don't want that to be a constraint of the contract.
And we internally here, we have the old RFP that we did. I'll make sure that we get it updated in the meantime. We'll have it updated and ready to go. And then like if next year the council says, you know what, it's time to go, we'll be ready to move quicker. So we'll be ready for that.
Okay, another thing that I'd like to see in this is while we have a motion and we have a second on it, so we're under discussion, is the late payments and addressing the late payments and this oversight that we're having of, if there's a certain percentage for late payments. I mean, this is a business like everything else. And if we have a contract, we need to be enforcing it, reviewing it regularly and making sure that we're abiding by the terms of the contract to our responsibility, this is fiscal responsibility as a city, and holding whoever we're doing business with responsible for abiding to their terms of the contract.
I should have specified that they will be held to the contract and there will be no deviation of that. We're going to follow the contract and if they're late in a payment, they're going to get the interest charge. So none of this will happen again. I can tell you that.
Okay.
You can't promise that. Through the chair, Mayor.
Counsel- Wait. He can promise
You can
that
say
he
that,
will follow
but don't
through, and
say
that's what we're
promise.
asking.
I will hold them to the
Are,
contract.
We will
and
hold
then
them
we'll
to,
hold them
okay,
to
what
it.
we're asking is for them to hold them to the contract. Okay. Vice Mayor.
I lost my train of thought with that.
Okay, is there someone in the meantime that wants to
Wait,
say
okay,
anything
I
else?
remember. So we're here passing a motion to move forward, and then we have a bunch of open-ended questions and speculations that we shouldn't be making a vote or moving forward on anything until we have all of those squared away. So like what Mayor said, the accrued interest, the back payments, there's still a lot of things here that we need to know before we move forward with something like this, right? It's the same thing as waiting for the proposals for each member to come up and discuss, for the lack of transparency. I'm making a decision right now, but yet again, the council still has a lot of doubts or are waiting for some things to be seen or what reinforcements we haven't enforced in the contract that we want to bring out. So I think my motion is to request an RFP like today. But if you guys are gonna make a motion to do.
Let's,
to vote
there's a
first.
motion with a second, so we'll just take a vote. If it passes,
Okay.
it's the motion, but if it doesn't pass, then you have the
what I
opportunity to
could.
make a new motion. However, Right now, what you can do is ask for amendments for the motion to be amended to, if it's possible, to address the issues that you would like to see in it.
No, I addressed a lot of issues in the last week. I mean, I did all this to paint a picture for you guys. It's very clear, I think. The city is not here to subsidize businesses. I mean, if we were, I mean, we're not, I mean, our general ledger is not the best. And we're making the wrong decision. I'm telling you right now. I mean, we've already seen a trend, right? We're willing to move forward with all the
Councilwoman,
business
let's
plan.
clarify this. You're saying we're making the wrong decision. A vote hasn't been
Sorry.
taken, okay?
Personally
You
to me.
are not, you're saying that the motion that's been presented, you feel is not a good decision. But
Yes,
don't
Mayor,
say
thank
we are
you.
making the wrong
Yes.
decision, because that's a collective statement that the vote hasn't
I-
been taken.
I apologize. That's exactly what I'm saying. So.
Mayor, if it might
yeah.
help to the
Yes.
Vice Mayor's point, it sounds like if the motion is approved as proposed, then in April, maybe this year it might be May, and then in following years it would be April. But it sounds like this year, April, May, perhaps these concerns could be addressed prior to deciding whether to renew for an additional year. And so, Vice Mayor, your concerns could be satisfied and getting something perhaps from the concessionaire and the manager that could be presented to council in a comprehensive fashion at the April or May meeting this year, prior to making a decision on whether to renew for another year.
To the chair.
Yes, sir.
I mean, I like to leave it at his discretion. That's why he's a city manager that we hired. So this thing about April or May, he knows his duties. And I got to give him the respect that he's going to follow through and show us in time, in due time, when something comes up of concern. So to me, I don't know why we're talking about an April or May, like, just, give it to the city manager and his discretion when the time is right, just like the same process that we do all the time. So to specifically mention something, I don't think we should.
Through the chair. Heidi, can you explain to me this July letter that was an intent to terminate contract back in July of 2023? With all of my requests that I did, this obviously surfaced, and I just wanted to understand the reasoning behind it for the record.
So
It
Mayor
was
and
never
Council,
presented to council.
what the Vice Mayor is referring to is a letter that we drafted last year. At the beginning of the year with our prior city manager, we learned that there were various items under the contract that the concessionaire had not met. So we prepared a default letter to provide them notice. As part of that process, we learned that they had fallen behind on revenue payments, but ultimately the letter was not sent. I think that when it was our prior city manager, the city manager, and perhaps Tammy may have more knowledge about the communications, but my suspicion is that all of the issues that were of concern in the default letter were discussed with the concessionaire under the prior city manager. And therefore, we were asked to hold off on sending that letter. And then it sounds like the same with our current city manager. We updated the letter a couple of times throughout last year. But ultimately, it sounds like the goal was to try to resolve an issue as opposed to taking legal action.
That's correct, Mayor. When she asked me, do we send the letter out? I go, no, let me speak to them. So that's why we're here now.
Okay, and what you've done is you've discussed it with them and you're presenting a
A recommendation that I believe is fair.
recommendation that you feel is.
And as far
is,
as the
uh,
extension, I mean, it's completely up to the council and I support whatever you guys decide, honestly. Go out to bid, don't go out to bid. I'm in support of whatever you decide. It's neither here nor there.
Okay. Did I hear you correctly, Heidi, saying that what we can vote on now, and I know you have a motion, but it can be amended or what can be voted on right now is just whether to waive, forgive the 15,000, except that we don't know that it's 15,000. Clearly it's more because there's interest on the late payments that aren't here. But are we talking about, what, can you give me an idea, Chris, of, can you
Should
give
be
us?
1.5% based on
For-
the contract.
For months, how many months?
I mean, I'd have to look back. The original amendment, we waived all the interest fees for the first 2 years plus, I believe.
No, I can correct that. The only 1.5 interest that was waived was March of 2020 through August of 2020. I remember, and I think I had Erica share it to the council. I went back to look for resolutions. At the time when they requested for the deferment, they also deferred late fees and the 1.5, but it was only for 3 months.
That the council agreed to waive.
Correct. So we have
the rest
4
is still
years
pertinent.
or almost 5 years, okay, of 5 years, that's 60 months. So we've only forgave them for 3. So we have 57 months worth of unpaid interest. And that adds up.
To clarify, in August of 2020, the city waived $4,000 in past due payments for the months of March and April 2020. It also waived the late fees and interest due on those past due payments from March through August of that year. So the waiver was $4,000 for 2 months, and then the waiver of the late fees and interest was for a different period. And the city amortized $9,000 in past due payments from May through and including August of 2020 over the remaining period of the agreement. So that's what happened due to COVID 4 years ago.
So this is like a reverse mortgage, sort of say.
Can I respond to anything on here? Or am I allowed to speak right now?
Yes, come on up. Yes.
The first question I have is, can I have a little clarity as to why it would be 1.5% interest on the entirety of the whole contract?
I don't think that that's what
I don't
anyone.
think
Yeah.
That's what Vice Mayor
Yeah, I'll give
Bravo
you the
just
clarity
said.
right now.
Well, let's not get it back
Oh,
and
no,
forth.
I-
Just
I
go
think you
ahead
had a
and
question.
state your.
That was my question. Well, that's one of my questions.
Go ahead
And
and
then
state.
my question is for clarity as to why it would be 1.5% interest, because that only comes if the payments are late. But that was, it seems like that was applying that every single payment for the entire duration of our contract has been late.
To the chair, let me clarify. For all the payments that were not paid, let me make that correction, because I really don't know, because everything is, it's manually inputted. There's not even a system.
Mhm.
So for all the months not paid up to today, have accrued 1.5% interest.
Okay.
Every payment that's missed.
Okay, so in this case, just to throw out a number, I'm not going to be exact, but 1% of the course of the 6 months or 8 months that were not paid seems to be around, or 1.5% seems to be around $600, $700. Chris, am I giving a good rough estimate?
I mean, if you did 1.5% on 50,000, it's 750.
On 50,000.
You said it
But
was
we're
50.
talking,
15,000.
we're talking about months backed up and deferred payments. I don't know the cumulative number. I've been asking for it since November and we don't have it. You don't have it because you don't have the systems to do it.
Well, we do have this system. That's a system generated report. I guess like Heidi was saying, what happened here was that on the deferrals, as far as I can tell, we didn't defer late fees or 1.5% on the months that they were late or not late. We just deferred the rent payments divided by 46 months, which came out to $209.35, tax included. So up to around when I got here, maybe 2 or 3 months later, around June-ish, July, was when we started not receiving the payments on time. We started having meetings with them. We transitioned from the interim city manager, acting city manager to JC, and now we've had these subsequent meetings to try to come to a resolution to move forward, April going forward, being on time, to not have to put late fees into the system or the 1.5%, which wasn't done prior to me. I can't speak to why it was not done. But yes, the number should be, whether it's $30,000 and it's, $450 or $50,000 at $750, that would be the approximate interest amount we're talking about.
I don't know if I can hold that number too. I have to go back to look at each and every payment. I'm gonna
So-
take it for what it is. He's our finance director. But let's get back to the facts. We're talking about peaches and now we're running off to squirrels. the contract is in nature defaulted. We could have canceled this many months ago. We didn't. We acted in good faith to help the business.
Okay.
But we're, again, I'm coming,
And you've made that point. I think that's clear and I think we all understand it. And Vice Mayor, I want to thank you
no, thank you.
for for the thoroughness of the points that you've made. I know you've really looked in detail on all of this. It's very time consuming and you've brought up a lot of what I think are very, very valid concerns. But here we are. We're here. Okay. So the decision really right now that we're going to make, that we have to make is going forward again, because we can go to the past, and all these situations. Obviously, COVID was a problem and, we all experienced that and some came out of it, some didn't. The golf course renovation is something that is unique to the golf course, and that's what you had the contract with to run that. So that's clearly something unique. So let's keep in mind that, regardless of what has happened in the past, and I think you've brought up points, I've brought up points of things that I'm concerned that, has lost revenue that had nothing to do with the golf course being open or not, the banquet facility. It's available and, it just doesn't seem to have been given the attention, the opportunity that you have there. So, but let's just keep that in mind and we'll listen to you, that what we're talking about is from now going forward. Do we go forward? We have the opportunity, and correct me if I'm wrong, JC and Heidi, of asking for an RFP in July, August, right?
Yes, correct.
Or extending it. Okay, go ahead.
I'd just like to respond to a couple of the points that were brought up that were concerns. And I understand and I appreciate you, Vice Mayor Bravo, for being very detailed on your investigation. And I appreciate everybody's responses this evening. So to respond to you, Miss Mayor, the banquet facility, you have to think about when you're planning an event, right? Just like you're planning an RFP, for example. You're not going to plan an RFP a day before your RFP. You're going to plan an RFP 6 months, 8 months, 10 months, a year, sometimes a year and a half, right? Depending on the event. Okay. If we are in a global pandemic, which we were, or if a golf course is closed and looks like a construction site, which we were, you have to think about the year following that day, because people are not planning weddings for the next day or anything for the next day. People are planning with the intention of making an event 6 months from now, at least, right? Okay. So with that being said, are there ways that you can market better, Councilman Bravo? Vice Mayor Bravo, are there ways that businesses can get better? There's always ways where businesses can get better. I 100% agree with you. And I strive daily to improve our business. Okay. But thinking about what I just said regarding the banquet facility, that is 2 years off of our 5-year contract, let alone the weirdness that followed the pandemic, right? So we're talking about possibly 3 years, 60% of our 5-year contract was kind of voided out. Okay. So that's one point to respond. The other thing, I would love for you to come by and have coffee. We opened up Greenhouse when the golf course reopened. We're open up 5 days a week starting this week. We open 8 a.m. Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday, and 7 a.m. Saturday and Sunday. So I'd love to have coffee with you one day. We did open up Greenhouse a year ago for weekends. So we have been serving breakfast since April of 2023, Fridays, Saturdays, and Sundays. So we have had the breakfast side open, and you have had the ability to come and have breakfast at the country club, even with the golf course being closed. With that being said, we opened up the breakfast place with a closed golf course. It was something that we wanted to do prior to the pandemic that we didn't have the chance to. The plan was to open it up in March, and we never got the chance to because in March, the whole world closed down. We finally recovered from the pandemic. We got back around to it, and we opened it in April, even though March 18th of last year, the golf course closed, right? So we have every intention to living up to our contract to the T. Okay. Businesses never go fully as planned. And I think everybody can kind of understand that, especially if you own 3 businesses. You have to make adjustments. Any business plan, if it goes exactly, actually, no business plans go exactly to the T. Can everybody agree with me on that? Any smart business person has to make adjustments to make their business flourish, right? Or survive, right? So we have lived up to a couple more things, and we did open up breakfast, and we are open up for 5 days a week starting this week. Okay, so that's a response to that. As far as a couple other points that were brought up, I think Vice Mayor Bravo, you brought up saying that we should be requesting to have certain things fixed when things are needing to be fixed.
Mayor, through the chair, are we getting into a discussion of?
Let's just let him finish and then we'll continue our discussion.
All right,
Go
Yeah,
ahead.
I would just like to,
Yeah,
just to make things clear, because you guys have had ample time to speak about everything. I've had a lot, I'm not going to go into details of exactly what, but I have record to it, and I can assure that I can bring other employees and staff members of the golf department, which works for the city, that they can vouch for me, saying that I have requested for a lot of things to be impacted at the golf course, right? On the city side. Okay. So I'm very aware on things that are happening, things that are not in our responsibility, and things that are in our responsibility. Okay. The bathrooms were something that we had to push back due to the circumstance. And we, as I mentioned, would like to hold everything to our contract, like you guys are stating. Okay. So we are doing the bathrooms right now, and the men's bathroom will be finished this week, and the ladies' bathroom will be started shortly after, and 2 to 3 weeks after that should be completed as well. Okay. Yes, ma'am.
No, are you done? Go ahead. Finish. What else?
I had a couple more.
All right, go on.
Couple more points, if that's okay. I want to talk about. Give me 1 second. I'm going to pull up my notes real quick. So I know there's kind of sometimes questions as to, what have we brought to the country club? I can tell you that from my experience, and my family has lived here for 15 years, and I know that there's some people that in this crowd that have lived here 45, 50, 65,
70.
Okay, let's go on. We're not taking a survey. Let's
Um,
address the council.
I've lived here for a short time compared to some of the people present. I never stepped foot into the country club prior to the RFP coming out. Okay. But I can tell you that even to this day, I have people coming into the country club, to the food and beverage operation, saying, "Oh my God, where have I been? The last time I came in here, I don't know what was going on. I haven't been in here in years because the stigma of this place on the food and beverage side, not on the banquet facility side, because I know that was very successful for a while, but on the restaurant side, the stigma on the country club was pretty rough. And I have people coming to this day that are telling us, thank you so much. You've finally given our community a place to go to within the community that we could enjoy. And that is the goal. And I think at times, you have to think about less about the small numbers that we're missing, and more about the bigger picture of the experience that we're providing for the locals here in the city of Miami Springs. right? And to back up what I'm saying on a financial side, if you look at the original proposal of this contract that we bid on, you can look at the sales or the revenues of the person running the country club prior to us on the food and beverage side. And if you look at those numbers,
Okay, we're just looking at your numbers, so let's.
I
move
understand,
forward. So
but this
let's-
is, you'll see my point in a second.
Let's just talk about your numbers right now, because that's all that, it's been 4.5 years. That's all that really matters. So let's go forward with that.
I understand, but just to show that there's a bigger
Okay,
picture
but
than
no,
that,
let's,
right?
doesn't matter that the city's been here 100 years. There's always another picture. Let's go forward with
Okay.
the time that you've been
Then
here.
just to conclude it, it's grown drastically since then. To be somewhat exact, it would be somewhere around 300 or 400% of increase. Within these businesses, though, food and beverage is a very high cost business. There's a lot more than just buying and selling the product. Okay. And I think if you research restaurants and you understand, general restaurants, most of them fail within 3 years. Okay. That doesn't matter, whatever. Profit margins on restaurants are between generally 7% and 15%. That's the most successful restaurants. Okay. So when the golf course was closed and when the pandemic happened, there's still all of these other bills to pay and things that are happening, right? But our business is reduced drastically. Okay. And the beverage cart goes hand in hand in our income and our revenue. And that ties in directly with the golf course being closed.
All right.
Okay.
Thank you, Yannick. Did you have a question you wanted to ask him, Councilwoman?
No question, Yannick. I understand. And I know that restaurants is like the number one part is business, right? I get that. But what I also do get is that what you've explained to the council are private business operations that you need to take and move forward. While I'm listening to your concerns, I have to make it clear here that it's the city has helped, but it's not the city's responsibility to make sure you survive. And that's, you have to understand that as a business perspective, it makes no sense to move forward with something that it's not making sense, at least right now, for the city. I mean, even right now, the contract is a sweet deal. I want to know what our country club is worth. Now, if it goes out to bid, what are people willing to pay us a month too? I mean, I don't know. But what I do know is that I understand your concerns. When you say you're open, do you have a marketing plan or exposure plan? Because I know that the Curtis Mansion, they went through it too, and they're doing great. I can tell you that for a fact. So while I understand your concerns, if you're not making money in the ballroom area, what are you really doing? What are you putting into the business to create that exposure? Because just like what we talked about before, the hours on agreement, they're not the same. I mean, you're opening up at 2:00. Is this still?
I'm glad you brought up that point.
Yeah,
I know the mayor wanted to move on to the next kind of subject, but that was another response. So our hours of operation during the golf course renovation were adjusted to open at 2 p.m.
Okay.
But now you've.
Yes,
adjusted up
yes,
to
they were.
reopen.
Well, right. And I'm sure you're accurate when you say the website might still say 2 p.m. because it might, because I don't think I made that adjustment quite yet on the website. And that is, I will take responsibility for that.
Google on the website, but I went
Right.
back a couple months back, but it's fine.
A couple of months ago, it was accurate. So a couple of months ago, it was accurate. It should be current now. But a couple of months ago, that was accurate. You're absolutely right. Why? Because when a golf course is closed and you're looking at a dead zone as far as a golf course goes, it makes your business look somewhat unattractive.
But you don't close down. You keep going.
Right. And we did. But for lunch, but Jackie, for Miss Vice Mayor, for lunch, the golf course is a big driver of that. It's a big driver, whether you like it or not. It's kind of common sense, as you mentioned. A golf course, being a restaurant on a golf course, you're dependent on the golf course. It kind of goes hand in hand.
Breakfast would be good there too. I love to eat breakfast.
It's been
there.
open for a year. I haven't seen you there yet.
I went
For
once. I wouldn't go back.
Weekends. Okay, let me
So,
ask you
and-
this,
yes, ma'am.
Yannick. You said that, excuse me,
Just don't know what to say.
you mentioned with the banquet, because that is an opportunity
Yes,
that sits there.
yes.
And we have to maintain the building. We have to do work on the building to maintain it.
Absolutely.
If it's not being utilized,
Yes.
maximized, it causes us to do a lot of maintenance on things that aren't being utilized, but it also impacts your bottom line. And like I said, it's a reason that people come into Miami Springs, you know, to showcase our city. They come in because they're attending banquets. You mentioned that you couldn't show the golf course at the beginning when there was construction. That might have been in April, you know, in the summer. There hasn't been construction other than the sodding. The fall, I mean, thought we were opening in December, in October, December. So in all these months, say, let's pick November
Sure.
to now, where are you advertising the banquet hall? Where is
We're advertising it on social media via Instagram and Facebook, and we are advertising it in the local River Cities Gazette as well. And we essentially attempted to start advertising with Wedding Wire right when the pandemic was about to happen, but because the pandemic happened, we didn't. And since then, we haven't revisited that. But I can tell you that our banquet hall, there's not 5 or 7 events a week. But I can tell you that if you look at it from November, that's when the course started kind of coming back to life a little bit. You're planning events 6 months to a year out. If you look at our calendar from around now, maybe April, May, ongoing, you start really seeing the calendar filling up.
filling up with, I know you have
With-
like the Rotary Club and things like this, meetings
Mhm.
or banquets?
No,
of
banquets.
Events
Banquets.
at night?
The only meetings that we have really, we have a few a month that we have. We have the Rotary Weekly, we have the GMAA, we have another business meeting that we have at the end of the month, but the rest of our banquets are events. The rest of them are, we do things, we had a quinceañera the other day, we had a religious quinceañera on Saturday, we had a religious event yesterday. We have another banquet event on this upcoming Saturday. And then once you jump into April, it really starts picking up. And you get into May again, and it really starts picking up. So things are definitely going to start turning around now that we're past that hump of the golf course being closed and the grass and all of that, the look of the whole place.
So you're advertising the banquet hall, you said, in social media and in the local,
Because that, and we have been,
not
for-
outside of the city or on other
on
means
other
of-
like websites and things, and that's definitely an opportunity. Absolutely, absolutely. But I can tell you that our events, we have been booking banquets, and we have had a lot of events. We really have.
Does anyone else have any questions? Yannick? Okay, we have a motion and a second. Could you restate, because I don't remember where we are with the
Sure.
motion?
My motion was to approve 11B, and 11B as stated, and the amendment to what was initially proposed for 11B would be that we allow an extension of up to 5 years, that comes before the council for renewal approval on a yearly basis.
Okay,
you
and we
read
have a
the story
second.
again? I
Pardon me?
think that was- and that was
Yes, and
second.
we have a second on it, and I just want to state my decision on this, and we'll take a vote, obviously, like we do everything else. My decision on this will be based on looking at the whole picture, looking at our community, what I think is basically at this time, right now, in the best interest of our community and our golf course. And these aren't, I know for all of us, they're not clear-cut, easy decisions, but ultimately you have to take everything into account and look at the future and decide, you know, from here, what's the best decision to make tonight. All right, with no other discussion, call the vote, please.
Vice Mayor Bravo,
No.
Councilman Santeen,
Yes.
Councilman Fahet,
Yes.
Councilman Vasquez.
Yes.
Mayor Mitchell.
Yes.
The motion carries.
Okay. With that, we move to reports and recommendations, and we'll start with our city attorney. Could I ask you to please hold your conversations outside so we can continue with our meeting?
Mayor and council, I wanted to address some of the emails that I received from many of you this morning and about the factory town noise over the weekend. I know that many of the city's residences.
Heidi, could you speak a little louder into the?
Sure. I know that. Hi. Mayor. Am I still a rock in your shoe? Abel.
Disintegrated a little bit, worn it down a little.
Yeah, wearing them down one day at a time. So over the weekend, I know that many of you received complaints about noise that was presumably emanating from Factory Town in our neighboring jurisdiction. As you will recall, 2 years ago, we dealt with similar issues. And in looking back at some of my notes and the lawsuit that we filed at that time, there were over 230 some calls in 2021 between October and December due to noise at Factory Town. So while we didn't have that same level of outreach from the residents, as far as I know that there was a significant amount of calls that were received by our police department. And I know that the manager was working with them throughout the weekend. So today, my partner, Eric Hockman, and I reached out to Factory Town's council. As I mentioned to you in the email that I shared with you earlier, we've been in contact with Factory Town's council for the last 2 years. So since we filed suit in 2022, we were able to resolve the issues with Factory Town without going through protracted and expensive litigation. And we had a process that was working where the city would provide Factory Town with its point of contact, whoever was going to be working on the PD side, and Factory Town provided the city with its point of contact. And so that process has generally worked. I think we've had less than a handful of complaints really over the last 2-year period. Some events have drawn more complaints, others haven't. But overall, that process has been successful. I understand that this weekend's events were very different, and we're trying to understand what changed. So we've asked Factory Town's council to inquire with his client what the issues were. And he has already engaged in that conversation. I can tell you he was immediately responsive to us when we reached out to him this morning. Historically, Factory Town's council has always answered our emails. I get responses from him within hours of reaching out and letting him know of the city's concerns. As far as this weekend's events, the city was proactive. We did reach out. We engaged in the same back and forth. This is who our contact person is. Who is yours? Is it still the same, et cetera? So the contact is definitely there. So as far as going forward, we have sent a notice to Factory Town, to their attorney, to their owners, asking them to abate the nuisance. The noise levels that were experienced by the residents are completely unacceptable. We recognize that. And so we've already gone ahead and sent out that notice. It is a precursor to litigation, and it's what we did 2 years ago. The statute requires us, there's a particular statute that we would be utilizing, and we did utilize in 2022, that requires us to send a couple of notices to the property owner asking them to abate the nuisance. So we've already gone and gotten that clock ticking. Factory Town's next event is April 20th. So with more reason, we wanted to get the clock ticking so that if the council directs us to take any and all legal action that we can against Factory Town, that we have that timeline going well in advance, or at least as close with enough time prior to the April 20th events. So they immediately responded through their attorney, and they will look into what happened this weekend that caused the noise to travel in the way that it did and for as long as it did. But they will be, they have reiterated to us that they are seeking to be good neighbors. I know it may not feel that way to the residents who weren't able to sleep over the weekend, but they are trying to apparently identify the issue. So tonight I will be asking your permission, your authorization rather, to file suit if needed. We'll certainly continue to work with Factory Towns Council over the upcoming weeks. But to the extent we're not able to come to a resolution and do something that we think is satisfactory to the city, and we'll certainly follow up with you individually, we do want to have your authorization to file suit if needed. So with that, I would love to hear a motion.
Okay.
I
Is
would
there a
like to make
motion?
a motion to approve that request and
Second.
recommendation from our city attorney.
All right, second
Second.
with Councilman Fahet and discussion. I just want to
Through the chair,
say that,
just to share
yes,
that,
sir, go ahead.
that my wife didn't sleep well this weekend. My hearing is a little different, but as I talked to other folks who did hear it, it was into the wee hours. I mean, 3, 4 o'clock in the morning. That's just unacceptable.
Well, it's into the wee hours because it's an after party. They bill
Yeah,
it
yeah, yeah,
as
it's not-
after, in this case, Ultra
Yes.
ended. It's where to go afterwards. So it's
down, yeah.
definitely intended to be, from midnight till 5 a.m. Anyone else discussion? Okay, I want to just let you know, this morning, I reached out to Mayor Boval. I'm still waiting for him to call me back to let him know that this is a problem, that it's returned. I reached out to Mayor Levine Cava's office and got a response from her, which I forwarded to our city attorney and city manager. She's having the police chief and I forget who else, Heidi, look into it. I told him this is, unacceptable. And the problem, and I also reached out to Commissioner Cabrera's office and let him know that this is an issue because the problem for the residents that are listening, we can control noise in the city. We have an ordinance and we can go to the facility and send our police officers. The problem here is that our police do not have the authority to control noise in an adjoining municipality. Or if it were unincorporated day, this time it's Hialeah. And that's where the problem is. And that's why the last time with our city attorneys 2 years ago when this started, you were very, very effective and basically we had reached out and I spoke with Mayor Boval and nothing seemed to work. And we had to start litigation and our city attorneys were very effective in controlling that because there's been several events since then. And when they do occur, they've been resolved. I think the big concern is that these events are booked for weekends. So once we have it one night, if it's not resolved that first night, it should never even occur to that. It should never get to the point where our residents have to say, I'm having a bad night because of the noise. And I appreciate that, Heidi, that you said that you had reached out, your firm had reached out and collaborated and made sure that everything was in place. So it wouldn't occur to that, but it did occur. And what's particularly disturbing this weekend is that it occurred the first night, the second, the third, I don't know, it's 3 or 4 nights. Is it on tonight again? Or hopefully it's over?
No, it's
ended.
over. And I did look at their website. Aside from the April 20th event, their next event, I believe, is in November. I think they traditionally have like a
Art Basel,
October,
yes, and then
October event
December
for
Art
Halloween,
Basel.
and then a Basel event. So there will be apparent reprieve whether we do something or not. But hopefully tonight people will be sleeping better.
Through the chair. Is that all City Hialeah or there's a portion in there with also unincorporated Miami-Dade?
No,
The whole Factory Town is all in
Factory
Hialeah?
Town is located,
All of
as
it.
far as I know, it's completely within.
I know it's pretty
the
large.
city of
right?
Hialeah.
We did have an event 2 or 3 years ago of an area in unincorporated Dade County, east of, I guess, near Highlight kind of area. And I reached out to the commissioner who oversees that area, and that was quickly resolved because the commissioner has the ability to send unincorporated Dade County. I think the big problem here is 2 municipalities and, a municipality has their own police and their own council. And if they elect not to consider it a problem, it's difficult for us to resolve it other than through litigation, clearly. So thank you for doing that, but I want the residents to know we are, and I asked Mayor Levine Cava to consider, this is something that needs to be considered, is a process for the county to address these kinds of noise disturbances within different areas, unincorporated areas, municipalities and all, that there's a process to investigate them and resolve them. It shouldn't just be, well, it's between you two. It's a noise disturbance and it's the same as pollution, water pollution. The county would not sit back and allow another municipality to come dump their waste in our area. We should not be receiving their noise waste either. So I just want to let the residents know, thank you to our city council, to our city manager, our police, who were very, very active this weekend trying to address it. We know it's a big problem and we'll get it resolved.
And Mayor, I would encourage residents to call the police and file complaints and give their names, because that causes the police to go to that address, take readings, and that is all documentation that allows us to move forward.
Thank you, Councilman. That's a really good point to stress. It doesn't matter if you called the night before. If it's happening again the second night, you need to
Yes.
call. It's really, really important because that's the only way that we can document. It's not just, oh, people are complaining about noise. No, it occurred again, the same residents, the second night and the third night. And Heidi, you correct us, but that's extremely important that we have documents to prove that, not just, well, people are saying it's noisy.
Absolutely. And I know I see it in my own community. Complaining on social media is not the way to do this. It's calling the police.
Yes.
That's the most effective
Social
way. and
media
it-
is
it
not,
supports us.
a record for us. It has to be documented to the police. Councilman, did you have something you wanted to say? Okay, so you need a motion from us? We have the motion
We have it
already? We
and a
have the first and second?
Yeah.
Okay, let's call the vote, please.
Vice Mayor Bravo,
Yes.
Councilman Santeen,
Yes.
Councilman Behet,
Yes.
Councilman Vasquez,
Yes.
Mayor Mitchell.
Yes,
The motion carries.
thank you.
Mayor, thank you. And I just, for those who may be celebrating, happy Easter. I know it's Holy Week, so hope you enjoy the weekend.
Thank you, Heidi. And now our esteemed city manager.
Thank you, Mayor. First of all, I wanted to thank you all for coming out to the groundbreaking, not groundbreaking, the ribbon cutting ceremony for the pickleball courts. Certainly a lot of excitement, and Omar told me later on, he's like, hey, the courts are packed already, so they're going to be used and they're going to be used a lot. The other thing I wanted to inform officially, the golf course is open. It's in this weekend, we did have a rain out. On Friday, I think they had to close early because of the rain. Saturday was a wash, but sold out Sunday. And it looks like the crowd, the word's getting out. So I would like to do the same, schedule a ribbon cutting with the council and I'll work with Erica to schedule that and the staff there in the golf course. And other than that, Mayor, I just wanted to wish everybody a happy Easter and a great week.
Thank you. Tammy, did you have anything for us?
Yes, we have a few events coming up that on Saturday, March 30th is the Easter egg hunt. So hopefully everybody got their wristbands there as they are required. Mayor, you had mentioned about the shoe drive. So we're still collecting those lightly used shoes up until the 31st of this month. We have a rummage sale on April 6th at the Miami Springs Aquatic Center at 1401 Westwood Drive from 7 a.m. to 11 a.m. And then that's it. Happy Easter.
Thank you, Tammy. Okay, let's start with the vice mayor.
I think I've said enough, Mayor, for tonight. I have nothing to report.
All right, Councilman Santeen.
Sorry to hear that, because the reality is that you are doing your job, and we should commend you for that. And happy Easter to everybody, and be safe.
Councilman Behet.
Yeah, just want to reiterate, I think that the vice mayor should be praised because discerning scrutiny is important. Dissenting opinions ultimately make decisions better. And I think that it brings to light things that we need to consider. And I'm very happy that the vice mayor brings up these points and gets us thinking, because I think that ultimately we make the best decisions when we have dissenting voices and different opinions. And happy Easter to everyone.
Okay, Councilman.
It's interesting. I was having a conversation right before we began. The vice mayor and I, precisely about her work and due diligence, and not that we don't do it, but I think she goes up, above and beyond a number of occasions, and is a real stickler, and I respect her for that. Like I do respect all my members here, my colleagues, the mayor. When we have differences, sometimes strongly, sometimes not, but I think that we're all coming from the same place. We represent the city, and we want the best for the city, and sometimes our visions are gonna clash a little bit, but at the end of the day, we, as I said in our prayer, come together with wisdom and fairness. And I appreciate that. I believe we're in a CONUS Island still on the war memorial. I don't want to make any comments.
Yes, that's correct, because
That's fine.
there's been no recommendation yet.
No comment then. Thank you. Happy Easter to everyone.
All right. Thank you. I want to thank everyone here. I'm looking forward to hearing the presentations on the tennis. I want to say again, committee recommendations are extremely important, and I want to encourage all of us to follow the process, but we do owe it to our community to be able to hear, what we're voting on. As far as voting, look, like I said, these decisions aren't easy, and each of us have to weigh all the information, and ultimately, I know I vote on what is the best for our community at this time of going forward. So sometimes we don't agree. That's the process. But again, as I thank everyone here on this council, and I commend you for that, and I appreciate working with you on that. Ultimately, our decisions are based on not personal gain or anything else, except what we believe is the best for our community. And I'm greatly appreciative of that. And with that, happy Easter, and for spring break for those that are going into it.
Thank you,
Meeting's
Mayor.
adjourned.